is going to form a downward curve. So anything left of that, it would be over this way. So that tells me it's going to come up here, going to hit my maximum point, and head down. Okay? Now this says to me everything to the right of when x is 2 is going to form an upward curve. So to the right's over there. So you would go here where x is 2, go down, hit your relative minimum, and shoot back up. Okay, now they're called relative maximum and minimum because obviously with these arrows, infinity and negative infinity are the minimum and maximum values for this function. Okay? So, as you can see, okay, going up, 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 comes up here where the slope of your tangent line is 0, starts going down negative slope, and then at this point, it's still a negative, but it starts becoming less and less and less negative. Till you come down here to where the slope of the tangent line is 0 again, and then goes back up. Okay. The key to doing these is to be organized. I know, look who's talking, right? I really feel guilty. I really feel like I know I did. I dropped the ball this semester. Whatever. Okay. Nothing I can do about it now. So, my husband just lost his job today, so that's good. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so now we're going to graph this guy. And you can see, right, if you stick values in for x, you'd be there forever doing arithmetic. So we're going to do our thing. Find f prime of x. Now this is the same thing as negative 1/3 x to the third. Okay, this right here and this. So if that makes it a little easier to take the derivative, you'd bring the 3 down, so you'd have negative 3 over 3 x squared, which would give you negative x squared. And then the derivative of this is 2x. This gives me the slope of any tangent line on this function. I want to know when that slope is 0, when it's flatlined. Okay, quadratic, I'm going to have 2 solutions again. So you can factor out an x or a negative x. If you factor out an x, okay, you can have negative x plus 2. Or, if you factor out a negative x, you're going to have x minus 2. So you need to be careful because remember, greatest common factor, when I distribute this, I have to get what I originally have. So, you know, it's easier to get it right if you factor out the positive. You get the same answer either way, x is 0 or x is 2, okay, when you solve it. Okay, so you just need to be careful with that. Okay, so this guy times this guy equals 0. For that to happen, either this guy is 0 or this guy is 0. So either x equals 0 or negative x plus 2 equals 0, which means 2 equals x. So now I have to find the y counterparts. So I need to find f of 0. So you go back to, not f prime, but f. So that's 0 over 3 is 0, plus 0 is 0. 0 is a great thing. Okay, and then I have to find f of 2. So that's going to be minus 2 to the third over 3 plus 2 squared. So this would be negative 8/3 plus 4. I would get a common denominator and do it that way, but I think most people would just use a calculator, so we'll do that. Negative 8/3 equals plus 4. Okay, and it's a repeating decimal, but that's fine. Okay, so this gives me, I'm going to write down my function here. And f prime of x, negative x squared plus 2x. I need that so that I can find f double prime. Okay, and we have 0, 0. And we have 2, 1.3. Okay, now remember, to determine max and min, I'm looking at the y values. Now, of the two numbers, this is the smaller, so this is our minimum this time. And this will be our maximum. Okay, so that's not too bad, right? So now, I'm going to find f double prime to see about the inflection point business. Okay, so f double prime of x, let's see, that's negative 2x plus 2. Set it equal to 0. Linear function, x on one side, numbers on the other. So if I subtract 2, I have negative 2 equals negative 2x. Well, that means that x equals 1. Okay? So that gives me the point. Oops, now I have to find f of 1. Not f double prime of 1, f of 1. Because this is, I'm graphing f. So that's going to be negative 1 plus 1 squared. So that's negative 1/3 plus 1 is going to give me 2/3 or 0.67. Okay, if we want to be consistent, either use fractions or use decimals, but you don't want to use both. So we'll do that. Okay, so f double prime is negative 2x plus 2, and our possible inflection, because we don't know yet until we do that little chart, is going to be 1.67. Okay, so we're going to make our little chart. So I take the x value of my potential inflection point to 1. Okay, and I'm going to look what happens when x is bigger than it and when x is smaller than it. And I'm looking at f double prime. Okay, so looking at f double prime, this one, if x is less than 1, like say 0, is this going to be positive or negative? If I put a 0 in for x, well, that would be 0 plus 2, that would be positive. So that tells me that's part of an upward curve. Okay, then I look at something bigger than 1, like say 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus 2 would be negative 2. If I put a 10 times negative 2 is negative 20 plus 2 is negative 18. So anything that's bigger than 1 is going to yield a negative. And that's going to be part of a downward curve. Okay, so let's look at how I need to make my graph. I have 0, 1, and 2, so that's x. It's just 0, 1, and 2. And then the y is going to go lowest is 0, highest is 1.33. So we can make this kind of spaced out. Okay, so 1, 2. And say this is 1.33. And this is half of that. This is 0.67. Okay, and that's a 1, that's a 2. Okay, so go ahead and plot our points. So we have 0, 0, that's the origin. Remember, when you plot points, you always go from the origin. Okay, then 2 in the x, 1.33 in the y. And then 1 and 0.67. Now, because these are not the same sign, I know this is an inflection point, so check that out. Okay, so this tells me that to the left of 1 makes an upward curve. So that means it comes down, hits this relative minimum, and goes up. To the right forms a downward curve. So it comes up, hits this, and goes down. Okay, I'm going to stop this, okay, and I'm going to put a couple problems, but actually, you know what, I'm just going to write them on the board, okay, and then the next video, I'll solve them, okay, so these will be practice for you. Okay, so they're very similar to the ones that we just did. Okay, so see if you can go through and sketch these, you know, find your relative max and min and see if there's an inflection point. If there is, what is it? And see if you can just sketch the curve. And I'll be back.